For this pan of pasta, I did not draw that circle freehand. I actually just drew around the base of a mug here. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. If I took all the pens out of it first. We need to leave a little bit of space for the handle. So I think I'm going to position it about here. There we go, that'll do. Handle is coming off at an angle, sort of like a skillet handle. Now we're gonna do a rough indication of like a sprig of basil and cherry tomatoes. They're not massive tomatoes. I'm not going to be drawing in the actual lines of spaghetti. When I did my original pasta, I used a dip pen, but I think we could very likely use a manky brush. Sorry, I keep coming up with different ways of saying dilapidated old brush. Let's just see how the lines look there. No, it's not too bad. And when you start drawing in the lines, you just want them to be kind of contouring around. I'm sure many of you have seen spaghetti and the way it sort of weaves in and out. Let's see what else we can do. What about the paper clip? Coming in very handy so far. Now you see the masking fluid is obviously running out towards the end, so maybe I won't continue with that. What about this silicone brush? I'm going to move back to my manky brush.
I really love this part. It's almost like mindfulness for me, where I'm just creating these curved lines. It might be something that you're not used to, so please be patient and compassionate with yourself.
I'm going to paint masking fluid over the basil and the tomatoes because I don't want any of the beige of the spaghetti ending up on there. Just taking my brush, dipping it in that washing up liquid, pop it in here. When these are dry, it will make a bit more sense. I know you're probably wondering, there's always a method to my madness. Oh, I've missed out a bit of spaghetti here. I'm going to see if I can just using the tip of my brush. Now the last thing to do is the very edge of the pan, and it's up to you how you want to mask this area. I'm just going to use my slightly dodgy brush, just following that pencil line where I drew around the mug. We are going to start painting in the pasta. So we're going to need, I would say, an ochre yellow. Add a tiny bit of gold to that. Okay, let's see how this goes on. That's probably a little bit too much. Just water that down a bit. And we can pretty much go over the whole thing in this. Then we will add a few areas of contrast. I think there was still a little bit of blue left on that brush. Hopefully it'll still read as pasta. Where you see the pasta weaving in and out, I'm just going to add a little bit of brown just to help the viewer understand that, you know, it was doing all that weaving in and out, and this will help deliver that message. Not everywhere, just a few places, a bit more burnt sienna maybe, just to help things along. So that's that bit, and now we need to paint in the background of the pan. Oh no, that's the wrong gold. That's a gold brown. Let's use a bit of the Van Dyke brown. Just be mindful not to go over that masking fluid line at this stage. We will fill that in, but not just yet. You can see that I've just gone over the handle, and we're going to let this dry initially, and then we're going to go over it again. I know it sounds a little bit involved, but I think the results will be worth it. If we take a look at it right now, I know it looks like an absolute hot mess. But once it's dry and we are able to put on another layer, I promise it will look so much better. We have this unassuming, it looks like a bowl of pasta at the moment, but it is soon going to become a pan of pasta. Let's take off that masking fluid line and see what we've got happening underneath. Oh, look at that. Oh, you know what I've done? I started rubbing out outline of that pan and I didn't mean to do that. So be mindful of that. It's not quite time to start rubbing out the masking fluid you've got around the pan. So when I'm painting that bit, I'm going to have to be really super mindful. Just take it easy. I think I was so enthusiastic about removing it. It's like I just wanted to see what was underneath. I have to curb my enthusiasm. I am going to admire the pasta strands. They have worked very effectively, I feel, so I'm jolly pleased about that. In terms of adding the tomatoes, let's start off with just a light red wash. I can just see the edge of that basil leaf, so I don't want to go over that. I'm going to add a dab of yellow. We're going to have to let this dry a tiny bit, but we're going to be doing a few other things in the meantime while we wait for this tomato to dry. We don't want to add the green of the basil just yet, otherwise it's just going to merge and our hard work would have been spoilt. We also have to add the handle of the pan. If I show you my test version, also the pan is very, very dark, so we want to add that dark interior, and that's why I said don't rub out masking line that is around the pan. So we're going to mix up the darkest brown you can, just going to the edge of the pasta. And I know there are areas where I did rub it out, so I have to be very careful there. I think by now you would have noticed that the actual painting doesn't take that long. It's waiting for everything to dry, and it's almost like an exercise in, meditation, just being present for all the little quirks of working with this medium. Right, it's here. It is just here where I accidentally pulled off the masking fluid. Right, I'm happy with that. Right, I've got to stop faffing. The handle comes next. I can just see it here. I'm just literally following the outline. It's not that hard. I'm rushing too much. I'm too excited. That handle looks a bit odd. It's not quite balanced. I don't know if it's quite in the middle. Oh, if it isn't, it isn't. There's not much I can do now. Payne's grey to this. Just here. A shadow just along this edge here. Oh, I've gone it. Right. I completely forgot I haven't got any masking fluid there, and I just went over it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Loosen that up by adding a bit more water. I think that's it. And in the meantime, our tomatoes have dried very nicely, so we can go back to them now with a much brighter, vibrant red. So that's kind of like the outer edge of the tomato, and it does sort of this business. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint in the basil now. So the basil is just a lovely vibrant green. I'm going to be very mindful not to let it touch the red that's still wet, otherwise it's not going to be a vibrant green. I need to drop in a bit more sap green because there's just not quite enough contrast. That's better. That is much, much better. I think that one needs to be a little bit more pointy. We're going to let that dry again, and the final thing we peel off is that outer rim. Here we have the dried pan of pasta, and as I mentioned just before, I want to rub off this rim, the edge of the pasta pan. If I go very carefully, I have learnt my lesson throughout this project. Can you see the wonderful line that is starting to show through? And that's why I was a little bit annoyed with myself that I removed it. This is a really good example where you could not achieve that level of whiteness if you painted on white. I think overall it works really, really well. I know there were a lot of stages and I lost my patience in a fit of enthusiasm, but I'm going to be able to live with this.